My dear friends, there comes a time in life when the chains of manipulation, fear, and self-doubt must be broken. That time is when you finally walk away from a narcissist. It may be a parent, a partner, a friend, or a leader. But the moment you step away is the moment heaven begins to heal you. It won't be easy. In fact, at first, it will feel like a storm. But let me tell you something. Even storms serve a purpose. They clear the air. They wash the filth away. They make room for new life. When you finally make the decision to walk away from a narcissist, you might expect to feel immediate freedom, relief, or peace. But what actually greets you is often the opposite. Instead of lightness, you feel the crushing weight of emptiness, confusion, and even guilt. This is what we call emotional withdrawal. It's the phase most people are unprepared for, and yet it's the first true step in healing. You're not just leaving a person, you're leaving a system, an emotional trap that has slowly rewired your mind and spirit. Narcissists do something very dangerous. They make you addicted. Not to love, but to approval, to their twisted form of affection. They train you like Pavlov-trained dogs. If you please them, they offer crumbs of validation. If you displease them, they punish you through silence, rejection, or rage. Over time, your nervous system becomes attuned to their moods, their tone, their praise. You begin living in survival mode, tiptoeing through each day, waiting for the next outburst or praise like a prisoner waits for water. You become dependent on their approval for your sense of worth. And when you leave, there's a void. This void is not a sign you made the wrong decision. It is the clearest confirmation you made the right one. That void is not absence, it's detox. It's your heart, mind, and soul flushing out the manipulation, the fear, the shame, the confusion. It's your body resetting after being in fight or flight mode for far too long. And just like someone recovering from a physical addiction, the withdrawal comes with symptoms. Sleepless nights, second-guessing yourself, anxiety, self-doubt, sadness, even physical pain. But all of this is normal. All of this is part of the process. You are not going backward, you are healing. People often ask, why do I miss someone who hurt me? The answer is simple and painful, because they conditioned you to. Narcissists are masters of psychological reinforcement. They will love bomb you, then devalue you. They will praise you in front of others, then criticize you in private. This push and pull dynamic creates trauma bonds, emotional chains that are stronger than logic. Your mind may know they were toxic, but your heart still craves the version of them that made you feel special, seen, and chosen, even if that version was fake. Walking away breaks that cycle, but it also breaks your comfort. And when comfort dies, pain rises. In this phase, you will hear the voices of doubt. Maybe I overreacted. And maybe it was my fault. And maybe they'll change. These thoughts are not truth, they are echoes. Echoes of their manipulation or gaslighting, their false apologies. When these thoughts rise, remind yourself of what you survived. Write it down if you must. Keep a journal of the times they twisted your words, blamed you for their behavior, or made you feel less than human. Revisit those moments, not to relive the pain, but to remember the truth. Truth is your anchor now. You will also face silence. That silence will feel louder than any fight you ever had. Because narcissists create noise, emotional noise. Their chaos fills your space so completely that when it's gone, you hear yourself again for the first time. That can be terrifying. But it's also where the real work begins. In that silence, you will find your voice again. Your real voice, not the one shaped by fear, but the one shaped by faith, by wisdom, by strength. Know this, feeling broken does not mean you are broken. Does not mean you are broken. It means you're rebuilding. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel strong, empowered, and peaceful. Other days you'll cry for hours and wonder if you made a mistake. This is the journey. Trust it. Stay in it. Surround yourself with truth-tellers, not those who take sides, but those who remind you who you really are. People who say you were not crazy, you were brave. There is life after a narcissist. There is joy, peace, and purpose on the other side of this valley. But before you get there, you must walk through the shadows of detox. Don't fear the darkness. God is with you in it. He saw every tear you hid, every moment you stayed silent to keep peace. every time you bent yourself out of shape just to be accepted. And he's not just walking with you, he's carrying you. You may not feel free yet, but you are already freer than you've been in a long time. The wound is open, yes, but it's clean. It will heal. The bleeding will stop. And what will rise in its place is someone stronger, wiser, and ready to live without fear. When you walk away from a narcissist, you don't just quietly exit their life. In their mind, you're not allowed to leave them. They see your decision not as an act of healing or self-preservation, but as rebellion, an insult to their control. So, they retaliate, and one of their most common weapons is the smear campaign. You may be surprised by how quickly the person who once called you the love of my life, or the best friend I ever had, turns into your biggest critic behind closed doors. But this is part of their pattern. Narcissists cannot accept rejection because their ego depends on admiration. When you walk away, you injure their pride, and in their world, that's an unforgivable crime. So what do? They don't come to you directly with remorse or reflection. Instead, they go to others, to your friends, your family, your coworkers, even your community. They begin planting seeds of doubt about your character. Subtle at first. I just hope they're okay, they've been unstable lately. Or, I tried everything. I just don't know why they're acting this way. Over time, these seeds grow into full-blown lies. They were abusive. They're crazy. They're a narcissist. Yes, narcissists often accuse you of being the very thing they are. This smear campaign is not about truth. It's about control. The narcissist is trying to control the narrative. They can no longer control you, so now they attempt to control how others see you. If they can't dominate you, they will try to isolate you. They want to make sure you lose your support system. They want others to doubt you, to turn away from you so you will feel alone, and hopefully return to them. It's a deeply calculated form of emotional abuse, and it works sometimes. People you trusted may suddenly act cold. Friends might stop calling. Family may question your story. It hurts. It feels like betrayal on top of betrayal, but don't panic. And don't react in rage or fear. That's what they want. They want you to come unglued so they can say, see, I told you they were unstable. Instead, take a deep breath. Stay grounded. Let time and truth be your defenders. One of the hardest parts of this stage is wanting to defend yourself, to tell your side, to prove you're not what they say. But remember this, you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Some people have already chosen their side. Let them. Focus instead on the people who truly know your heart, the ones who've seen your consistency, your character, your kindness. Those are your true allies. Also remember this, people with discernment eventually see the truth. Narcissists cannot keep their mask on forever. Time exposes them. Patterns expose them. Truth always rises. Sometimes slowly, but always surely. Stay consistent. Stay peaceful. The person who smears you today will eventually reveal themselves tomorrow. And when that happens, your integrity will speak louder than their lies ever did. This is where your faith will be tested, because everything in you will want to respond, to defend, to retaliate, to shout the truth. But healing doesn't come through revenge. It comes through peace. It comes through peace. It comes through trusting that God is your vindicator. He sees what was done in secret. He hears the whispered lies. And He will lift you up in due time. Don't chase down every false rumor. Don't lose sleep over every whisper. Your focus now must be on recovery, on rebuilding your sense of self. The smear campaign is a distraction sent to pull you back into the chaos. Don't go. Walk away. Let your peace make the noise. Because in the end, the ones who truly matter will see. They always do. And the ones who believe the lies, they were never for you to begin with. When you leave a narcissist, something powerful begins to happen, slowly, almost like fog lifting after a long storm. You begin to see the past clearly. For the first time in a long time, your mind starts replaying conversations, arguments, moments that you once dismissed or misunderstood. And now in the stillness, in the absence of their manipulation, you start to notice what was really happening. The confusion fades and clarity begins to set in. You realize how often your reality was twisted, how often you were made to question what you saw, what you felt, what you remembered. This is the moment many survivors call a waking up, and it truly is like waking from a dream. Or more accurately, a nightmare you were told was a fairy tale. You start remembering how often you apologized for things you didn't do. You start to see how they used your compassion against you, how they played victim whenever you raised concerns, how they gaslit you into believing you were the problem. At the time, it felt like chaos. Now, with distance, you see the pattern. You were never unstable. You were under psychological attack. Clarity is painful, but it's also incredibly powerful, because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. It becomes the foundation of your healing. Before, you were swimming in confusion, always questioning your instincts. Now you begin to trust yourself again. You start giving yourself permission to believe what you saw, what you felt, what you endured. You stop needing outside validation for your pain. You finally allow yourself to say that that was abuse, that was manipulation, that was not love. But there's another side to this clarity. Along with insight comes grief. You grieve not just the relationship, but the time lost, the self lost, the innocence lost. You mourn the version of you that accepted less than you deserved. And that's okay. That grief is necessary. It means you're starting to value yourself again. It means you now understand what you went through wasn't normal. It was trauma disguised as love. Sometimes this stage brings anger. You think, how did I let this go on for so long? But be careful not to turn that anger inward. You didn't stay because you were weak. You stayed because you were manipulated, emotionally trained to doubt yourself. You survived the best way you knew how at the time. Don't shame your past self. Thank them. They kept you alive long enough to find the truth. And what's most important now is this. Clarity is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to set you free. The purpose of seeing the past clearly is not to stay stuck in it, but to learn from it, to grow through it, and to move beyond it. You will still have moments of confusion, and that's okay. But now you have the wisdom to say, this doesn't feel right, and the courage to walk away from it. As you continue to reflect, you might also realize how many red flags you ignored. But instead of focusing on what you missed, focus on what you're now seeing. Your awareness has increased. Your discernment has sharpened. That is victory. That is progress. You are no longer that confused, gaslit person. You are someone who is rising into truth. God has a way of turning painful clarity into sacred wisdom. The more you see the past for what it was, the more you begin to see your future for what it can be. You no longer need to live in confusion. You are no longer under their spell. You are awake, aware, and equipped. You are free to think clearly, to feel deeply, and to choose wisely. When you walk away from a narcissist, one of the most unexpected and beautiful things that begins to happen is the rediscovery of your identity. At first, you may not recognize it. The silence after chaos feels foreign. You might look in the mirror and feel unsure of who's looking back. But over time, sometimes slowly, sometimes sudden, you begin to remember who you are, and more importantly, who you were always meant to be. Living with a narcissist means losing yourself one piece at a time. You begin to compromise, not because it's healthy, but because it's necessary for survival. You shrink your voice so theirs can be louder. You let go of hobbies, friendships, dreams, anything that threatens their control. You stop laughing freely. You stop dressing the way you like. You stop being curious, spontaneous, joyful. You become a version of yourself that feels acceptable to them. Not authentic, acceptable. And over time, you forget that you ever had a self outside of that role. But when you walk away, the noise starts to die down. And in that quiet, your true voice begins to return. At first, it may feel faint, like a whisper, but it's there. You start remembering things you used to love, music that made you feel alive, books that stirred your soul, places that made you feel peace. You start exploring your opinions again, without fear of judgment. You begin making decisions without second-guessing whether they'll approve. And you realize that all this time your identity wasn't lost, it was buried. Rediscovering your identity after narcissistic abuse is like finding treasure in the rubble. Every piece you uncover feels sacred, the laughter that comes back, the confidence to say no, the joy of sitting alone and feeling okay. You realize that you are not broken, you were wounded, and wounds can heal. But what grows in their place is often stronger than what was there before. One of the most powerful parts of this rediscovery is recognizing how valuable you really are. Because narcissists make you believe that your worth is tied to their validation. They condition you to see yourself through their lens. Always flawed, never enough. But when their voice is no longer shaping your identity, you begin to see yourself through a different lens, a divine one. You begin to understand that your worth is not earned. It's intrinsic. You are loved, chosen, and created with purpose, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And this new identity is not built on fear. It's built on truth. You are no longer the person who needs to be perfect to be loved. You no longer have to explain your existence. You don't need permission to be yourself. You are free to dream again, free to grow. Free to take up space in the world without apologizing for it. Yes, there will still be moments of doubt, days when you miss the fake security of that old identity. That's okay. Healing is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, every time you choose your peace over their praise, you take another step toward your true self. And the beauty of it all is this: the real you was never gone, just buried under fear, shame, and control. But God never forgot who you are. He's been calling you back to yourself the whole time, and now you're beginning to answer that call. With every decision rooted in truth, with every step away from toxic validation, you reclaim more of your soul. This is not just recovery, this is resurrection. What they tried to suppress is coming alive again, and this time no one gets to take it from you. Not because you're bitter, but because you're wiser. Not because you're angry, but because you're finally free. After leaving a narcissist, one of the first feelings that creeps in is loneliness. It can come like a wave, sudden, silent, and overwhelming. It's a strange and painful paradox. You were lonely with them, yet now you're lonely without them. It doesn't seem fair. After all, wasn't walking away supposed to bring peace? Wasn't freedom supposed to feel better than this? Here's the truth. The loneliness you feel now isn't because you made the wrong decision. It's because you finally made the right one. And now you're sitting in the quiet that follows chaos. The silence that used to be filled with drama, arguments, accusations, and confusion is now still. And for a while, that stillness feels like abandonment. You may find yourself questioning, did I do the right thing? Or maybe I could have tried harder. These thoughts are normal, but they're not signs of failure. They're part of the detox, your soul adjusting to an entirely new rhythm, one that's no longer ruled by fear. You see, when you're entangled with a narcissist, your identity and daily emotions revolve around managing them, managing their moods, their expectations, their reactions. It becomes a full-time job just trying to keep the peace. And when that job is suddenly gone, it leaves a void. The loneliness you feel is not just about the absence of that person. It's about the absence of that daily survival pattern. It's disorienting, but it's also a sacred space. Because for the first time in a long time, you're left alone with you, and that's where strength begins to grow. It's in this solitude that you begin to truly heal. Without their voice in your ear, your voice grows clearer. Without their approval controlling you, your choices become your own. And though the quiet can feel unbearable at first, it is in this very quiet that God starts whispering your name again. He begins to restore the parts of you that were forgotten. He begins to awaken the dreams, desires, and direction that had been silenced. Strength is not forged in comfort. It's forged in solitude. In Scripture, before anyone stepped into their calling, they went through a wilderness. Moses was alone in the desert. Elijah hid in a cave. Even Jesus was led into the wilderness before beginning his ministry. Why? Because the wilderness strips away distractions and reveals the foundation. It's where strength is formed, character is refined, and purpose is clarified. Your season of loneliness is not punishment, it's preparation. You're being fortified, spiritually and emotionally, for the life you were meant to live. This season may look like isolation, but it's actually insulation. God insulating you from further damage so that your heart, mind, and soul can heal. He's not leaving you. He's keeping you hidden until you're whole enough to re-emerge. The world sees loneliness as weakness, but in God's hands it becomes a sacred cocoon where brokenness is transformed into boldness. Yes, you may cry. Yes, you may miss the chaos, not because it was good, but because it was familiar. But don't mistake familiar for safe. Don't go back just to avoid being alone. The pain of loneliness is temporary, but the pain of staying in a toxic place lasts forever. You are not alone, you are becoming. So use this time wisely. Fill your quiet with truth. Fill your space with peace. Read, reflect, pray, create rest. This is not wasted time. It is sacred ground. This is where your spirit grows stronger, your boundaries grow firmer, and your identity grows clearer. And one day you'll look back at this season and realize it wasn't loneliness. It was rebuilding. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning. You didn't lose your life when you left the narcissist. You finally stepped into it. Alone, yes, but never abandoned. Hurting, yes, but healing. And that healing? It will become your strength, your testimony, and your power. Keep walking. Keep trusting. This quiet place is growing something powerful in you when you walk away from a narcissist. You don't just walk out of pain. You walk into possibility. You step out of a prison built with manipulation and into a future that finally has space for real love, real peace, and real connection. At first, it may not feel like freedom. It may feel like emptiness, fear, or uncertainty. But over time, that space that once felt hollow begins to fill with something beautiful, truth. And with truth comes restoration. One of the most beautiful and healing results of leaving a narcissist is the space it creates for genuine people to enter your life. People who don't play mind game. People who don't make love feel like a transaction. People who don't keep score, gaslight, or punish you for having needs. When you leave someone who always made you feel like a too much or a not enough, you create the space for someone who simply sees you as enough as you are. Real love does not make you question your value, it doesn't exhaust your spirit, it doesn't come with conditions or demands. Real love listens. Real love nurtures. Real love gives without expecting you to shrink in return. But to receive that kind of love, you first have to make room for it. That's what leaving a narcissist does. It clears the space, it ends the cycle. It prepares the soil for something healthy to grow. The same is true for peace. The peace you once begged for, fought for, compromised for, it begins to grow naturally. Not because your world becomes perfect, but because you are no longer living in fear of emotional ambushes. You're no longer trying to decode someone's silence, dodge their moods, or earn their affection. The absence of chaos is not boring. It's blessed. You begin to feel what peace really is. The deep, calm certainty that you are safe in your own life. And something else happens. You become someone different. Not bitter, but better. You learn to set boundaries without guilt. You learn to trust your intuition again. You begin making decisions from a place of strength instead of survival. You no longer feel the need to explain your worth or prove your love. You simply live it. You become whole. And in that wholeness, you attract others who are also whole, or who at least honor your growth in your journey. Many people fear leaving because they believe no one else will ever love them the way the narcissist did. But the truth is, you don't want that kind of love again. Because what you thought was love was really control, dependence, and fear disguised as intimacy. You deserve something pure. You deserve someone who celebrates your voice instead of silencing it. Someone who builds with you, not breaks you. Someone who brings peace into your life, not just makes promises in the middle of chaos. And perhaps most importantly, you learn to love yourself again. You stop looking for validation in someone else's eye. You begin to enjoy your own company, respect your own needs, and honor your own story. That's when healing becomes transformation. You're not just recovering from a toxic relationship, you're being reborn into your purpose. So yes, when you leave a narcissist, it hurts. It costs you. It shakes your identity. But it also opens the door to everything you've been praying for. Love that doesn't hurt. Peace that doesn't depend on their moods. Relationships that don't demand your silence. You walked away from a storm and you're walking into sunlight. You may still carry scars, but those scars are now part of your testimony. They prove not what broke you, but what made you stronger. Stay on this path. Don't go back. Don't settle. Let this new life unfold. The door has been opened, and on the other side is a version of you that is free, healed, loved, and finally at peace.